Corey here from Fuel Your Photos, and I just wanted to do a quick video about setting up Search Console. I know a lot of people are having issues with figuring out the difference in your properties and domain properties in the URL prefix and exactly how to set this up and which version of your domain you should use. So I'm just going to go over a few things here. And this actually works out well because in this particular account, I don't have these properties verified. If you notice, if I try to go to one of these, it's going to say checking verification and it's going to say that it's failed. That's because I verified it a long time ago. The method I used then is no longer valid because it's been removed, and I re-verified in a different account, and so you don't see them here anymore. So this is great. I'll get to show you exactly how to verify these if you have this problem or if you just are starting from scratch. All right, so the first thing is that you have this option to add properties. So maybe you're in here and you only have one of these or you have 0 of these properties already in your account, and you need to add a property. So you can click add property. You're going to have 2 options. A domain property, it says new. It's been around for quite a while now, over 6 months, but it is still relatively new. And then you have URL prefix. And so this is going to be a very specific method that allows multiple verification options. If you have a very specific domain you want to verify. So for example, here I would only be I would only be verifying one version of my domain. So you see how I have 4 different ones here. So HTTPS, HTTP, www or non-www, you have one version exactly. That's what a URL prefix is going to do. Now the domain property is going to catch everything. It's going to catch all subdomains and variations on your domain. And that has to be done with DNS verification. We're actually going to do both of these here just to show you exactly how this is done. Now, first of all, let's figure out how to know what is your canonical address. The canonical address is the authoritative source, the one address that you want to use. If you only set up one URL prefix, this would be the one that you want to use. There's a couple of ways to do this. First of all, if you're using Chrome, if you look in the browser address bar, by default, without clicking on it, it's not going to do anything except show you the naked URL. But if you click on it, you have to kind of double click here on my PC. It'll show you the full address. Also, see how here we have https://www. That's hidden whenever it's not highlighted. You could also highlight it once and copy it. And then if you were to go here and paste it, it's going to paste in the full address. That is the canonical address. Now, that is going to be true if everything is set up properly. It's possible that you could have multiple versions available or accessible if your redirects are not set up properly. One good way to check that is to just go ahead and copy your URL and then drop it into redirect mapper. This is varv.com/tools/redirects. If we click on go, this tool is not 100% reliable. Sometimes it doesn't work exactly as expected, but most of the time it does give me pretty decent results. And in this case, it's going to show you whichever one has the green check marks, that's the no redirect and has the final status code of 200. That's probably your canonical address here. So in this case, www with HTTPS, this tool was correct. You can see that the www redirects to this one, the no www redirects to this one, and the no www HTTPS redirects to this one. Everything is working properly here. So if I were just going to set up one property in Search Console, it would be this one, https://www. So it's important to understand with or without www is different, and with or without HTTPS is different. These are all different possible combinations of your address that in Search Console mean something completely different. Okay. All right. Then we'll get too much more into that. For now, we found the canonical address and we're going to verify that one. So what we would do is go in here to add property and URL prefix. This is hard to say. And then you would just drop in, you paste in that exactly like you had it. Now, in this case, we already had that one. And it's basically going to say it's not verified. All right. So you have a few options. You have an HTML file, which you can download. You could download this HTML file right here and then upload it with a method like FTP. That's probably above the tech level of a lot of people, so we're not going to use that one. There are easier methods. You can use the HTML tag, you can use Google Analytics, you can use Tag Manager, or your domain name provider. We're going to get into domain name provider for the domain property, But for now, we're probably going to pick one of these two options, HTML tag or Google Analytics. Google Analytics should work. If you have Google Analytics set up on the same account and it's verified and it's working, then all you have to do is just click verify and that should work. Now, if this popped up and it didn't auto verify, that chances are you don't have Google Analytics set up properly in the same account. If you have it set up in a different account, this won't work. So that's something to think about there. Anyway, HTML tag is another really easy way to do this. It's a little bit complicated only because it's hard to, like, they don't let you select the piece that you need for this, and you have to like get exactly the right thing to do it the way I'm going to show you, but it's still pretty easy. We're just going to click copy right here. Okay. And then we're going to go in. Now I'm in WordPress. I guess I should say, if you're on any other platform and you're doing this, the easiest method is probably going to be either, let's go back to it real quick, either Google Analytics. Again, if you have any platform that allows you to just add your Google Analytics UA code and verify analytics that way, then after analytics is working properly, it's a great method for verifying Search Console. Or you're going to want to use the domain name provider. Those are going to be your options if you're not on WordPress. If you are on WordPress, this is super easy, especially if you're using Yoast. Come in here to General Webmaster Tools, and you see here we have a Google verification code. Now this one is another verification. So once I change this, it's probably going to not be verified on that other account I was talking about. But here we do need to get rid of everything here, with including that quotation mark. And then before that quotation mark, we just want that piece that was in the quotations there. And if I click on save changes here, that should instantly, unless I have caching set up. If you have caching set up, you may need to clear your cache. But in this case, I should be able to say verify on this now, and it should work. Let's see. Boom, done. All right, so now I can go to that property. Now it's already got data populated because I had it verified on another account. Google has been tracking this. Now, if you're just setting this up for the first time, you won't have anything here for a couple of days. It's going to need some time to populate. And then it won't have historical data. It'll start collecting from that point forward. All right, let's look at the other option here, the domain property. I know this video is getting a little longer than I wanted it to, but I think this is important to go over. So we can go here into add property and we can use domain property. Now here we would just put in the domain. Don't need any of the www or HTTP or HTTPS, any of that. Just put it in just like this. Click continue. Now, it's going to make me use a DNS record. All right. So if you're not familiar with this, it's a little bit complicated, but it's not that bad. The first place you want to start is with your domain registrar. Now, in this particular case, I was using GoDaddy as the domain registrar. I have a lot of other things under Namecheap or Google Domains. Just depends on what time in my life I registered these domains. I don't necessarily recommend GoDaddy as a domain registrar. They're not terrible as a domain registrar. I typically recommend Google Domains. But anyway, whatever your domain registrar is, you need to look there and see under the DNS management, you can see if you can edit the DNS records there. Now, in this case, I've got the name server set to my host. So I can't actually look at the DNS records on my domain registrar because they're not hosted here. They're managed wherever the name servers are pointing, which is WPX hosting. So I'm going to go over to my hosting and go into my DNS settings here. And now you can see this is where my actual DNS records are hosted. Now, if I want to add a new record, I can click here. Now, in this case, we can follow the instructions given here. We're going to add a text record, and the text record is going to have this as the value. Okay, so this may look a little different depending on which, it will definitely look different depending on which DNS host or domain name server or provider you have, or registrar you have. But anyway, the point is here we're going to change this to text. The hosts, for if you are asked about it, is just going to be at. The value is going to be whatever they gave us there. And then TTL, we can just leave blank as a default. If you're forced to put something, put in 14440. Save record. And the thing about this is that it does take some time. For many registrars or DNS hosts, it's done in maybe 15 minutes or so. Sometimes it could take up to 72 hours for this to verify or for this to be active on the domain. You can always go to what's my DNS, what'smydns.com, put in ablaze.com, change this A to text, and we'll search. and see, so far we don't have a Google verification that we just put in showing up at all. But if we give this 10 or 15 minutes, I mean, even sometimes after a few minutes, you'll start to see it show up in some places, but it needs to fully propagate across at least all of the US servers, or most of the US servers, because Google's probably going to be checking it from somewhere in the West Coast. And if it's not verified there, or it's not active propagated there, then it won't work. Okay, so just give this some time. It will show up, and then you'll be able to come back over here and click on verify. You can click verify later for right now, and it'll be in here as a domain property, and I can come back to it. It's going to check my verification. It's not finding it yet. And whenever it's propagated, I can click verify, and that will take care of that. Now, the reason you want multiple domains here is because let's say that your canonical address is https://www.ablazephoto.com, but Google is indexing some URLs on your page as HTTP with no www. Well, you want to be able to see, this should auto verify now. You want to be able to see, was there any traffic coming into these pages that shouldn't be receiving any traffic? Now, in that case, you can see there's nothing. Might be able to go to this one. Sometimes on your HTTP version, you'll have some little pieces of traffic that will show up. And the most common reason that you're going to see something coming into the non-canonical version is, let's say you have Google My Business set up with the HTTP version from a long time ago. If you have HTTP and Google My Business, Search Console is going to track appearances of Google My Business, like if you show up on the maps, or if you show up as a knowledge graph panel whenever someone searches for your brand. All of those, if you included HTTP as your website property on Google My Business, then it's going to show up in that property. And that's just a way of showing you, hey, we've got stuff showing up here. Where is that coming from? I need to diagnose. As far as what you really want to be looking at, all you really need is the canonical version, the one that's live, and the one that everything else is redirecting to. And then a domain property allows you to, let's see if it's ready yet. I don't think so. That will allow you to, so we found something else instead. That's okay. We're just not done yet. Yes, this will allow you to kind of catch everything else. So you don't necessarily, we used to recommend setting up all 4 versions. Now we just recommend setting up the canonical version and the domain property, which will catch everything else. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, if you're going to add a sitemap or ask Google to index your site, it's absolutely important for you to be on the canonical address when you do that. If I go in here in the HTTP no www version and I try to submit a sitemap, it's going to give me all kinds of errors. It's going to say this is blah, 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 blah. Like whatever it says, it's not going to work. You have to be on the canonical version. Use this varv tool, check in your browser, copy and paste it from your browser, Chrome especially. I don't know how it works in Safari or whatever else you might want to be using. But in Chrome, you can do it this way. Use this tool, find your canonical address, use that when you're submitting a sitemap or when you're doing any kind of submission to Google or inspection with Google. All right, hopefully this was helpful. I know it went a little bit long, but hopefully it went over enough things. If you still have questions, make sure to ask in the Fuel Your Photos Facebook group.